Hello and welcome to Introducing Ethics, Part 1. I'm your instructor, Alex Bearden. In order to clarify what we do in a class like this, we need to learn the basics about the philosophical study of ethics. It's not uncommon for students to have some preconceived notions about what ethics is all about, notions that are sometimes misguided. So a good place to begin is to talk about what ethics is not. In discussing what ethics is not, a contrast emerges that helps us determine what ethics is. Giving an uncontroversial and widely agreed upon definition of ethics turns out to be philosophically contentious, so we'll have to work through a few things first. As a basic definition, we can say that ethics is the philosophical study of morality. Morality refers to beliefs concerning right and wrong, good and bad. Those beliefs include judgments, values, rules, principles, and theories. Moral philosophers are interested in determining what makes an action, belief, attitude, or value right or wrong, good or bad. For example, here are two moral beliefs. Lying is wrong and vandalism is wrong. We're simply not interested in memorizing rules when we do ethics, but trying to explain the underlying features that make an action like lying or an action like vandalism wrong. And there are some different possibilities we can point to, such as the fact that both lying and vandalism cause harm to their victim. When you're lied to, or your stuff is vandalized, you are made worse off. Another possibility is that both actions involve using people improperly. Lying to someone is often a way to use them as a means to your own ends. Likewise, vandalizing someone's property uses a person wrongly by destroying or degrading the value of their possession. Philosophers disagree about what features broadly explain what make our moral judgments, attitudes, beliefs, or actions right or wrong, good or bad. They even disagree whether we should explain things in terms of the right or in terms of the good. Philosophers want to know what is more fundamental, the right or the good. In other words, does what is right derive from what is good, or is it the other way around? But let's turn back to what ethics is and what ethics is not. Here are 5 distinctions that will help us carve out what ethics is all about. A first distinction that is useful is between law and morality. What is legal is not necessarily the same thing as what is moral. We can see that law and morality come apart with a couple of examples. Cheating on one's spouse is immoral, but it's not against the law. Criticizing a totalitarian dictator might be illegal in certain places that are unfortunate enough to have such leaders, but it's not immoral. In fact, it may be morally appropriate to criticize such a leader. Morality also differs from etiquette. There is a proper way to set the table, but that doesn't mean that it would be immoral to put the knife on the left side of the plate and the fork on the right. Being polite is often appropriate from the point of view of etiquette, but it may not always be morally appropriate in the same way. Etiquette may call on you to laugh at an uncomfortable and racist joke, but morality requires you to show restraint. Another important distinction is between tradition and morality. While many traditions are influential, valuable, and venerated, being around a long time isn't enough to make something moral. Tradition is often accepted uncritically and without reflection, but when we study ethics, we examine tradition. And in this way, we often find that certain social practices, like excluding women from voting or slavery, are morally wrong. Fourth, when we talk about moral theory, it's not the same thing as talking about a moral code. A moral theory is a systematic way of thinking about the moral domain which aims to explain the features that make an action, attitude, belief, or value right or wrong, good or bad. Finally, descriptive ethics is the scientific or social scientific study of moral beliefs and practices. But philosophy is not a social science. Scientists and social scientists are interested in how people behave, and aim to explain moral beliefs and practices. Psychologists, anthropologists, sociologists, and to some extent economists explore the domain of descriptive ethics. In the philosophical study of ethics, we're not interested in what people do, but in what people ought to do. Not in how people live, but in how they ought to live. Prescriptive ethics is not after a description, in other words, what is the case, but prescriptive ethics is after prescription, what should or ought to be the case.